Thank you, Peter, for that musical interlude, and welcome everyone to the latest webcast in Caring.com's Digital Marketing Academy. Our session today is focused on helping your agency succeed in converting online leads. I'm Denise Grob, a marketing director here at Caring.com, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Peter Droubay, who you see on video there. We'll introduce him more in depth in just a moment. Before we dive into the presentation, though, I just want to cover a few housekeeping items. This is a one-way webcast where only the presenters speak, but you can ask questions. We want you to ask questions. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the presentation, and if we don't get to your question during the session, we'll follow up with you afterward. The number one question we typically get is this being recorded? Can I share with my colleagues after? The answer is yes. We are recording this session, and we will circulate the slides afterward as well. Now, this is a free webinar, and the sponsor of today's presentation is Caring.com. For those of you who are getting to know us, and as a refresher for those of you who are already partners, our organization was founded by caregivers for caregivers. Our flagship website, Caring.com, was created and launched in 2007 to equip family caregivers to make better decisions, save time and money, and feel less alone and less stressed in providing senior care for their loved ones. Today, millions of people come to our website to research and get referred to home care agencies and senior living communities. In fact, we have one of the most comprehensive directories on the web, and our #1 source for the senior care reviews online. We have about 250,000 consumer reviews posted now, and we add thousands every month. In May 2018, we were acquired by Caring Holdings, a group of investors with over 15 years of digital marketing experience. That transaction has truly enabled us to continue to expand our services to family caregivers and older adults and enhance our competitive position in the marketplace while working and doing more with our partners. Our featured presenter today is someone that we are so thrilled to have on the Caring.com team, Peter Droubay. Some of you may even be familiar with him, given his extensive experience in the home care industry, including helping to build both the Senior's Choice and Hallmark Home Care, two organizations through which he trained hundreds of home care franchises nationwide. Peter is, in fact, a renowned trainer in sales and marketing, a who's who of corporate America on his client roster, and a proven track record in multiple industries. He has also owned and operated SalesTrainer.com for 25 years. Truly a top-notch trainer, has a wealth of practical knowledge, specifically in the home care space. And besides being a phenomenal professional, he's an all-around great guy with some wonderful real-life stories that leave you with both a smile and nuggets of valuable truth. This is the agenda we're going to cover today. It's a high level. Peter's going to go in depth on this, and he's going to take you through some trends in the industry, tell you about a brand new training program we have, then dive right into those 10 keys for converting online leads and how to get access to more leads, training, and support. Okay, without further ado, bear with me while, I need to pass off the remote control. Here we go. All right, Peter, it's in your hands. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Denise. I'm always grateful. Denise is phenomenal on our team as well. Love her to death. And thank you for the eulogy. Every time I get introduced, I feel like I'm being eulogized. So hopefully that's not the case. I really am grateful to be with Caring.com. It's a marvelous organization, and we're doing quite a bit that is both visible to our partners and the public, but also behind the scenes. So I'm excited about things going forward. It is an interesting time. Obviously, this particular webinar was scheduled for a week ago. We ran into some difficulties with a national provider going down. And so we thank you for chiming in or jumping back on to this week. And we'll certainly get the recording out to all those that weren't able to make it this week. But I really appreciate you all for being here. And again, it's a different time in our industry. It's very interesting right now. So I am going to talk about a couple trends here to start with. One of them is fairly obvious for our time right now, but and I certainly do not mean in any way to minimize what's going on in our industry and across the world right now. But I tend to be a glass half empty kind of guy when it comes to preventing or preparing. But I tend to be a glass half full kind of guy when it comes to the actions that we take. And I want to take a look at what do we do going forward, right? Where are our opportunities and how do we maximize that, knowing that this too shall pass. Everything comes and goes, and we're in the midst of something right now that we hope will be short-lived. But regardless, there are some things that we can be doing now. So with that, let me see if there we go. Okay, so let's talk about two trends. One has been going on for quite a while, and you've noticed it. If you haven't, then I don't know where you've been. That is, there's a shift in the sources of businesses going on in home care. When I first started 25 years ago with my first foray into home care, we did all of our business through referral marketing. And much of the industry is still based on referral marketing. In other words, we went and talked to every professional in the community, every discharge planner, every doctor's office, every hospital, every home health agency, you name it, right? We went out and we talked to them all, and we built up our identity with them. We built up our credentials with them in the hopes and the goal of receiving their referrals. And we built most of our business on referral-based marketing. And much of the industry is still that way, but we're seeing a shift. And in fact, in most markets, less than 70% of the current new clients are coming in from referral business, and that's dropping rapidly. In fact, in some markets, they're very tech-oriented on the coasts and things like that, California especially right now, and many other markets. We're below 50% comes in from the traditional referral marketing. The place that's going, we all know. I don't have to break this to anybody, but we have the internet has been a great blessing in our lives. The ability to communicate just like we're doing now over the internet, but also the ability to search and shop and work. And so what we're doing is we're seeing that many more people are starting their search online even before getting referred, and we're getting a lot more. That trend is just soaring upwards. A lot more people searching for leads and options online. Now, there's a scary underside to this trend that I want to take just a moment on. And that's something that you've probably noticed. If you haven't, if you start asking, you'll find that it is the case. And that is that we're seeing a lot of people start their search online. That's pretty obvious because we see that come through in our lead flow from online. But the scary trend that we don't have a good grasp of, and we don't know yet exactly the extent of it. But more and more people who are being referred by professionals are actually going online before taking the advice of that professional. And we'll talk more about this, but you know what I'm talking about. You know that even you do it. I was talking to a doctor recently in the industry. He's owns a home care agency in addition to other businesses. And we were talking about this trend, and he rolled his eyes. He said, it used to be that when I told somebody to go take a medication, they ran right out and took it. Now they go Google it first, and then they come back and argue with me about whether it's the best medication or not. Well, the same thing is happening even with your traditional referrals. A percentage of them, and we don't know what that percentage is because it's tough to quantify, but a percentage of them are also looking up the recommendation for home care. So the discharge planner may say, call ABC Home Care, and what they get is the person says, okay, I'll go look it up online first. And so it is more and more important for us to be ready for that trend. And then, of course, we all know this, but there is a short-term trend. We hope it's short-term. We hope it's very short-term. But obviously, we've got COVID-19 out there that is changing the way that we do business in a lot of ways. And I don't pretend to have every answer here, but I do know this, is that we are also, Caring.com is in the business of not only referring to home care agencies, but we also refer, and a large portion of our business is referring to communities, senior living, assisted living, memory care, independent living communities. And these communities are really struggling right now. They're struggling because obviously people going to a community is scary, especially when in the news, there's a lot of news about some nursing care facilities that have been severely impacted by COVID, and we pray for them, and it's a very serious thing, but obviously a lot of people are not able to go and move into assisted living where they might have otherwise. But we offer assisted living. We simply offer it at home. And I think that's what most people miss, is that we have this term out there of assisted living, and yet that's what we do. We offer assisted living in the same ways that communities offer it. Simply we do it in a different venue, and it is perhaps a safer venue than going to a community where there's lots of people. There's another interesting trend afoot, and that is that a lot of our traditional referral sources are stressed to the max. Obviously, hospitals, discharge planners of all sorts and every type of facility are stressed. I was talking to an agency owner just yesterday, in fact, that lost about 20% of his business over the last couple weeks, but gained it all back by simply letting all of his discharge planners and traditional referral sources know that they are open for business and able to help. And he did it from a very helping standpoint. This isn't about capitalizing on the current issues, but it's simply about helping out. And there's a lot of concern. There's a lot of people that are not able to take in clients right now, patients, if you will, or assisted living clients that are looking for help in that way. There's a lot of other people that obviously the trends are different. So I in no way want to minimize today what's going on, but I also tend to be the glass half full kind of person when it comes to this. I want to look for ways to help. I also know that right now, you know, our biggest, one of our biggest issues in the last couple of years with the hot economy has been hiring and getting good caregivers. Well, there's a lot of people looking for work right now. Hopefully they all get their old jobs back, but we don't know, and we don't know how long. And the bottom line is that there's a potential for more caregivers right now. And so both of these trends are going through. So here's what we know, is that the solution right now to both of these trends is to build up your online leads in your marketing channel. And that's a no-brainer. You should be doing that regardless of COVID-19. But here's the problem, is that online leads require a different sales system. You see, referral marketing, I'm gonna air our dirty laundry here, meaning the industry, home care. I've been in the business for a long time at every level. I've been at every level of the business, and here's what I can tell you is that we've gotten a little lazy on our sales systems. I'll talk more about this as I go through the 10 keys to converting online leads into clients. But here's the issue, is that referral marketing takes a lot of time, effort, and expense to establish referral relationships. You can spend, as you all know on this call, you can spend years trying to get the trust and to work with different entities, different people in the community that will refer business to you. Once it starts happening, though, it's a beautiful thing. You get referrals from these referral agencies. There are fewer leads than, for instance, online marketing, but they convert very highly because traditionally they're kind of pre-sold. I mean, the discharge planner, the doctor, the trust officer at the bank, whoever's referring them, right? The social worker says work with your home care agency, and the people are pretty much pre-sold. Now, more and more of them are going online, as I talked about, looking you up first, but it's easy to get lazy on the sales system. I mean, we get 3 calls, 2 of them turning to clients. It doesn't matter if we had our care coordinator or the nurse or whoever else is doing that intake do it, and the salesmanship is sort of an afterthought. But here's the issue. Online marketing is a very different animal. Advertising marketing in general is a very different animal, and online certainly feeds into that. It's fast to set up. It's inexpensive to generate leads. You get a lot more leads, but it's a lower conversion rate. You must have a good sales system in order to convert. And unfortunately, a lot of us have been really lazy in this area. We have we've let the same people handle the leads that have always handled the leads, thinking, oh, well, it's a lead and they'll handle it just away. But the bottom line is I'm going to go through some tips here that you'll see a lot of the way that we're handling leads, because we're used to referral marketing, does not work the same way with advertising marketing, specifically online marketing. So we'll go through that, but here's the bottom line, is now is the time to build up your online marketing if you haven't already, and now's the time to build a sales system for that. And so we have released a training program to that effect, okay? So we are announcing today, this was, again, our announcement was meant to be last week. We already have modules up and going. we have a new sales training series for our partners. It's posted at partners.caring.com. It is password protected, and so if you don't have that password already as being a partner, you'll need to talk to one of our account executives to get that password and become a partner of ours. 10 modules, they range between 5 and 12 minutes long each. We have the first two posted, and it's something to have your entire office staff watch. Anybody involved in your marketing, in handling leads, in onboarding new clients, everybody should watch these modules. Again, they're quick and easy. There's nothing earth-shattering, but they are earth-shattering to people that haven't heard the concepts before and aren't doing it the way that we're talking about. And today, we're going to give you an overview of these 10 modules, of the 10 steps to being able to convert online leads into clients. I'm pretty excited about this because, again, it's been something that people have been asking for a while. We finally said, you know what, we need to get this done because we have, I'll give you some idea, I'll talk more about this as we go through. We have people that are doing really, really well converting online leads, and we know because we supply leads, and so we track. And we have people, there's major franchisors that are telling us that our leads are the highest converting, and they give us exact numbers. I have people that tell me that they're consistently converting 25 to 30% of our leads. Meanwhile, I have other people that, you know, as we'll talk about, the best practices aren't there, that really struggle to convert, you know, even a few leads. And when I query them on how they're handling it, they're just not handling it well. And so let's go through and let me show you how to convert consistently, you know, 20 to 30%, at least 5 to 10% makes it all worth it. So let's talk about this. 10 keys to converting online leads. And again, those of you that have joined us as we got started, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A panel. We will try and get to as many of the questions as possible towards the end. We are also circulating this video. It will form somewhat of an introduction to this training course that we're doing. And these 10 keys, each one of the videos is one of these 10 keys addressed in full. All right, so 10 keys. Let's start with the first one. Here's the very first one, and it seems obvious, and yet not everybody in your business knows it. As an owner of the business, if you're on, or a manager of the business, you probably do know the numbers, but a lot of your staff don't, and that creates a real issue. The first step for everybody to understand is to run the numbers to define success. Now, there's some basic numbers that people in your business have to understand, and these numbers are, unfortunately, not a lot of people do. So, for instance, what is your client acquisition cost? What do you currently spend to acquire a new client? If you add up all of the monies that go into marketing, that includes your staff, that includes your ads, that includes what you pay for leads, everything that goes into your marketing efforts, and divide that amount by the number of new clients that you sign on each month, what is that number? I know that industry standards throughout the industry, as we do surveys and other people have done surveys, the number lately is coming in somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 per new client in acquisition costs. Now, if you can get it below that, that's great. I applaud you. But most people are somewhere in that range, right? $1,000, $1,500, even $2,000. Seems like a lot until you get to the next number. What's every new client worth to your business? In other words, what's the gross profit margin over the lifetime of that client relationship? Meaning if they're with you on average 14, 18 months or more, right? What's the total amount of gross profit that you earn from the average client over the lifetime of their connection with you? And that number varies. I was talking to an agency recently that told me that they're up over 18,000, but the industry in general is somewhere between 8 and 12. Right, 10,000 being about what the average lifetime value of a client's been for most agencies lately, right? And so the bottom line is you can take a look at those numbers and then break it down even to your market, your different marketing avenues. The reason this is so important is that when you do the math, two things come up. Number one is that you find that online marketing brings one of the highest contribution margins, meaning one of the highest gross profit margins per marketing method. And then the biggest thing, and I can't stress this enough, everybody in your business needs to know these numbers, because if you judge a marketing program by the quality of your last lead, you'll give up on and fail on almost every type of marketing, because you're bound to get a lead that doesn't turn into a client or that doesn't respond the way you want them to. Every marketing program has to be judged by the overall return on investment. But here's one of the problems. Right? One of the problems is that whoever's handling those initial phone calls, right? They get one that's phenomenal and they think, wow, this marketing program is phenomenal. And then they get one that's not great. They won't call you back, or worse, they aren't very nice on the phone. And suddenly people say, oh, this is terrible, right? These leads are terrible leads. And the bottom line is that the leads are only judged based on the numbers, right? If you run 100 leads and then you look at it and say, okay, we closed on 20 of them, but we didn't spend very much for those 100, you'll find that it's one of the most profitable methods of marketing. Even if you only got 5 clients, right, you'll find it's one of the most profitable methods of marketing, because you didn't pay very much and you got it started early, and it didn't matter. So again, very first step, know the numbers and have everybody in your business know the numbers, so that we're not judging a marketing program based on the last lead. Any marketing program, judging it based on the last lead, you're going to have some leads that don't work out. And so at times it's going to be terrible. And other times it's going to be great because the last lead was wonderful. So that's step number 1, is run the numbers to define success. Here's step number 2. Make sure your online image is strong and improving. And here's what I mean by that. In today's marketplace, we're really, with this online campaign, we're looking to attract that quintessential adult daughter that we all know as the model, right? We call her Mary. Some people call her Susan, right? The most popular names for people, women of her age. But this is the adult daughter, and this is who we really want to talk to. We're all after Mary. But Mary has changed, right? She's very different now than she was even a generation ago. In that, she's very busy, number 1. She's part of that sandwich generation we always talk about. She's working full-time as well. She doesn't usually do much until there's an urgency. She's prompted by a medical situation. But she's different today in that she's very educated. She's very professional, very independent, and even a little cynical. This is the person that the doctor was complaining to me that when the doctor tells her to go take a medication, she doesn't do it right away. She's a little cynical. She doesn't trust the doctor like she used to, right? Instead, now she Googles it and she looks up the information. And so here's what happens when you get a lead for Mary, no matter where that lead comes from, whether it comes from us, whether it comes from your own website. Here's what happens is that you get that lead, she goes and looks you up, and she doesn't look at your website as often, right? She looks you up across the internet, and she relies heavily on consumer reviews, on third-party authorities. She's a little distrustful, a little cynical of what you put out there on your own website, right? And then she uses technology to do things like screening calls, right? She decides who to call and who to talk to in advance. So it's a little bit different, and you have to have your online image up. Here's one of the problems that we run into all the time. People come and buy leads from us, but they have 0 reviews. Their listing looks terrible because they haven't spent the time to update it. They have no Facebook presence or social networking presence. Their website's okay sometimes, right? But across the net and the other venues that Mary's going to look at, she doesn't find them. And so those people wind up saying, well, how come I'm not getting the conversion rate? And the problem is that, we tell Mary to call XYZ Home Care, and then Mary goes and looks you up and sees nothing there, or worse, sees 2 reviews and one of them's not so great. Meanwhile, your competitor down the street has 50, 60, 100 reviews and they all look great. Mary trusts what she sees, okay? And she's not just seeing your website. In fact, she's often never looks at your website these days. You need one, but here's what Mary's looking at these days. She's looking at social networking sites, heavily at consumer reviews, third-party platforms like caring.com. She reads articles and blogs. Again, she's very educated, loves to educate herself. She looks at listing summaries. It's one of the reasons she likes places like caring.com. She can look at all the different listings in the area and look at the summaries. And there's also, Google's now publishing what's called a listing summary. If you Google your name, you'll find that it pops up, and then next to your profile, there's a summary. And in that summary, there is a button to go see your website, but there's also buttons to see all the reviews spread out across the web, lots of other places where she can find you. Did you know that she's not clicking on the button for your website as often? In fact, a lot less than before. She's often clicking on the reviews first, right? Online directories such as ours, videos and podcasts are huge. Your YouTube channel or videos embedded just about everywhere else, podcasts, huge. She's going to all these things before she even looks at your website. So if you're not strong and improving in these areas, it's going to have an effect on your online marketing. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're just starting out, you can't convert. People still convert online leads into clients if they do everything else we're going to talk about. but you need to have an active campaign. We talk to people all the time that are saying, oh, I want to convert more leads. And I ask them, well, what attention have you put into your online reviews? And sometimes the answer is nothing. I didn't even know that mattered. Well, caring.com is the biggest online review site. We give you all the tools, in fact, an abundance of those tools to be able to manage your online reviews, and you need to start doing that. So step number 1, run the numbers. Step number 2, make sure that your online image is strong, because she's going to look you up, even if she's told to call you, even if she's sent as a lead. Even the people that are referring you from the community, your professional referrals, she winds up looking up your online image. Here's the next thing. You need to recognize that the internet is early in the process, and there are much more shoppers than the people referred by the local doctor, right? These people are shopping, and you need to know that that's the case and seek to help them as shoppers. So part of that is to make sure that you're not, one of the issues is that we're so used to calling up referrals that have been sent by a professional in the community where they recommended us. And honestly, I've listened to so many people that call them up and assume they're a client already. And they're talking and acting as if they are, often, like I mentioned before, and no offense to our care managers and our nurses and everybody else we have on staff, but they're not salespeople. And often they will call up and in a very clinical way assume this person is the client and try to start service that way. We need somebody that's able to mesh with them where they're at. They're in the shopping mode. So for instance, most of the people, they're not sure whether they need home care, home health care, assisted living, or skilled nursing. Did you know we get a ton of calls? And you've probably heard this, one of the most common searches, and we get a ton of calls. We field tens of thousands of calls every single month in our call center. And one of the most common questions is they'll say, you know what, I don't know, I think my mother needs a nursing home. And then we start talking to them, we start asking, and it turns out they don't need nursing care at all. They just didn't know what else to ask for. They don't know, they're shopping. We need to educate them. So education is king. The more you can offer an ally with her needs, this Mary that's looking wants more education. She's highly educated. She wants to do the education ahead of time. So checklists, assessments, articles and videos, comparisons you can do in the local area to different options, local resources. You could be the resource that says, you know what, if we're not the fit, we'll get you the right fit, right? We know everything in the community. Personal introductions. I can even introduce you to the people if it's not us. Support groups for caregivers and otherwise. There's all sorts of things that you could offer that are good for her education and shopping needs. Make sure that you're coming at it from that vein. If everything is a hard close because you assume they're already a client, you're gonna struggle with online leads. Okay? So again, they're shopping and you need to offer to help them shop. Now, beyond that, speed to lead is critical. In the internet world, this is a term that is used constantly, speed to lead. And here's the bottom line, is that if you are able to connect with them immediately after they're looking, you will find a much higher conversion rate than if it's days later. And the difference here is that we're so used to, and we're not set up, we're set up for referral-based marketing, and we're used to those people being referred by their doctor, and even if we talk to them a few hours later, a day later, sometimes several days later, it's still a great referral, and we're still able to work with them. And there's just a different urgency. But people are shopping online. They're looking at multiple options. We know something about them when they're shopping online. They're in front of their computer. They're looking, reading, educating themselves, and they've typically got a phone next to them. And we also know that when they end their session online and they get up and walk away, they're still able to answer their phone, but it's not top of mind at that point, right? They go on to other things. And especially Mary, when she's looking online, she's not acting until it's urgent, right? Mom fell, dad's Alzheimer's took a turn for the worse, right? There's something going on and she's urgent, and she's a fixer, right? She goes and fixes things. And so she is on it. People often say, well, gosh, I don't get it. How come she doesn't pick up the phone every time I call her immediately? Well, she's a busy woman. She's that sandwich generation. She's probably got a family to take care of, a job to take care of, 40 hours a week. She's there. She's running back and forth to rehab because mom fell. She broke her hip. She's back and forth, and she's in this I've got to fix things mode, right? Because that's who she is. And thank God for her. She's amazing. She makes the world go round. But we need to understand that. So a couple things is, one is we got to get a hold of her right away. If you don't have things set up in such a way that you can get a hold of people immediately, at least your first attempt. And I don't mean just a phone call, but all the information for shopping that I told you about. If we can't get that out immediately, then we need to question our system and work towards a better system for speed to lead. Okay. The next key here is not only speed to lead, but a high contact cadence. We are used to calling somebody, leaving a message, and they'll get back to us sometime. And I talk to some agencies that, they'll call me and they'll say, gosh, I'm only converting a few percentage point on online leads. And I'll say, well, okay, so you called this woman and what'd you do? Well, I waited for her to call me back. How long did you wait? Well, several days. Well, I can tell you that's not going to work with Mary and the online shoppers that we're talking about. A high contact cadence means that you need to keep it up. We call, for instance, when people first inquire, we call 3 times in the first 5 minutes if she doesn't answer. Why? Because she's probably not answering because she's on the line with somebody else, or she's, having to handle something else. She's in her car. We don't know. And so we'll keep calling for the first few times in order to contact her. We then call quite often thereafter, and the most successful with all online leads have a high contact cadence. They also have other contact methods besides the phone. Now, I'm not showing you this because it's the way of doing it, but there's all these other ways of contacting. Are you texting people? Are you emailing people? Are you using instant messaging? Calendar invites. One of the things that we used to do a lot, and I still do in our business here, but in my agencies, we used to send people invites to events like this, or simply schedule a meeting one-on-one, but send an invite. Social networks. Are you reaching out through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through YouTube, through all the social networks, right? Videos and things like that you can send immediately. Again, scheduling these online meetings. You can immediately set up an online meeting if you're set up for that. And even the good old post office works. It's not a speed to lead, but locally you can typically still get a letter or a note delivered within a day or two. So the bottom line is, are you using all the different contact methods? And again, back to the cadence, do we have a cadence set up to be able to reach people? Right? Here's a suggested cadence. I'm not saying that it will test the perfect way for you, but it's a whole lot more than, I called, left a message, and I'm waiting for a call back for several days. Right? So one of the things I recommend is day one, there should be at least 3 calls. Don't leave a voicemail every time. You don't need to wear out their voicemail. Leave them one good voicemail, but then try them a couple more times and send a text message. By day 2, there should be invites to social media and emails that go out with resources, like I talked about, shopping resources. Email headlines like, don't decide on anybody until you check out this checklist, right? Don't decide on anybody until you read this, 10 ways to hire a good home care agency, that kind of stuff, right? And then your first direct mail piece, that's the DM, should go out. By the 3rd day, you should be emailing and texting again. They should be enrolled in a drip email campaign, so they're constantly getting emails. Again, further calls. You don't need to leave a message every time, but at least try them. And so the contact cadence needs to be higher. A lot of you are calling, and then you're just sort of waiting. And you're surprised when they don't get back to you right away. Well, some of them, again, are very, very busy. So keep a high contact cadence in order to get that done. Again, I was talking to a client who's closing very highly, and their cadence is even higher than what I'm showing here. They call several times the first day and several times the second day. And then they have all the other methods, the email, the text messaging, the invitations, the seminars. One of the things we used to do is we used to do a seminar. We did it live, and then we started doing them online, just like this, once a month, to where everybody came back through, right? We just invited constantly everybody, even people that we thought had hired another agency by then. We still invited them. You'd be surprised every time we got people that not only were recent leads that we got, but also people that had even gone away. We thought it was a dead lead, but they came back, and turns out now they're hiring somebody, or they did hire somebody and they're not satisfied, so now they're coming over to us. So there's all sorts of ways to add to this contact calendar to keep this up. In the next step is you got to have good scripts, and you've got to be able to handle brush offs, okay? So this is one area that we don't have time today to get into because it's more meticulous, the exact scripting, but it is one of the modules in our training program. I'm not going to go through much right now, but the bottom line is that you need to go through that module. There's some scripting elements and some ways of handling brush offs, objections, if you will. And ultimately you need to have somebody, hopefully everybody in your business, but somebody trained on how to handle these calls, how to talk to these people, and how to work with them, and exact scripting that you're testing, you're working with, and you're practicing on, so that everybody knows how to do it. And at least one person who's handling it does it the same way over and over again. Okay, huge. So please go through that module in our training program. Now, ultimately, you've got to be able to move them offline. And this is where the trends might be changing a little bit for the time being. I understand how difficult it is to get with them in person these days, but still, we've got to be able to look for ways to get them out of the anonymity of online to a more personal relationship. The classic way of doing that, everybody that tries to close over the phone typically struggles with this type of lead. But those that are, again, seeking to help them shop, and one of the biggest ways to help them is through a good in-home assessment. Now, again, I am not talking about your traditional intake assessment where a nurse sits in front of them and does a chart, right? That's a very impersonal, very logical, very medically driven kind of deal. And if that's your normal way of doing an assessment for somebody who's not necessarily sold yet, then we need to talk further about that. Your assessment should be one that is really discovering their needs and their wants and their wounds, their pains, right? Things that will drive them to actually say, you know what, I need somebody in home. I need a caregiver, more often than what I thought. If you do great in-home assessments as part of your methodology, you're going to see much higher billable hours per client, and you'll get many more clients. Now, I know that that's becoming more difficult, but guess what? It's time for us to look for other ways. Venues just like this, Zoom and other online marketing platforms, online meeting platforms allow us to do a lot more than this. And you'd be surprised how many people can do this. It's available on your cell phone. Some of you are probably on a cell phone right now watching this. And so you can do that. We've had lots of deals of great success by opening up our office. Not all of you have an office that's very accessible and people can come to it. But when you do, open houses at your office are a great way to invite people and get them offline when they were simply online. Even just getting their physical address for a direct mail campaign is a form of moving them from online to offline. Support groups, seminars and training programs, dinner events, right? There's all sorts of ways of taking this group of people that raised their hand online, said, yes, I want to do this. And by the way, the reason that our leads convert higher than anybody is we talk to every one of them. And we not only talk to everybody, we qualify them. We know that they are looking for home care. Some of them are looking at all options. Some of them are looking at assisted living as well as home care. But we know that they're looking for home care. They've all said they want to, and we've qualified them based on budget. We've qualified them based on location and all those things. So they do want this, but it doesn't mean they're sold on it. So the more you can get them from being that anonymous person online to an offline situation, the better off you are. And if your sale is driving that way, if your sale is constantly about how can I close you right here on the phone, again, this is going to be difficult. But if your sale is how do I move you from being this anonymous caller to somebody that's interacting with me offline, the assessment being the primary sale there, then we're going to do well. And during this time of COVID-19, experiment with doing video conferencing, experiment with different ways of handling the assessment. But the bottom line is it's possible, and you've got to get them into that space, right? The last couple items is contact depth matters, right? Here's some interesting things that, this is general sales. This is not just our industry. This is general sales. This was a couple of years ago that we pulled this stat. I can tell you it's gone up since then. But in the 10 years from 2007 to 2017, the number of calls that it took to contact somebody the first time more than doubled. In other words, the number of dials of the phone before you actually talk to somebody more than doubled in sales in general. Now, I'm talking about sales to businesses as well as sales to consumers, but I don't know what it is for you directly in every case. Some people, it seems like you're calling and calling forever and getting old. I can tell you that consumer calls, it matches this and is even maybe a little bit higher. It might take you 10 times because we have this whole thing called screening, right? Somebody sees your number, they know who's calling. Sometimes they choose not to answer the call. Other times they're simply busy. We can't talk on our phone while we're in the car these days, all that kind of stuff, right? So the bottom line is when I get people that say, well, I called them once and couldn't reach them. I had one of our clients call me recently, and I apologize if you're on the webinar today, but she called me and she said, you know, I'm not sure about these couple leads you sent me. And I said, why? She said, well, they're the only ones that haven't called me back yet. And I said, well, what period of time has it been? She said, well, it's been a couple days and nobody's called me back. I said, you know, you are, first of all, you're phenomenally lucky. You've had, you know, she had like 70 or 80 leads where they all, you know, she was able to reach them all in the first couple of days, and she was doing really well, but she was mystified about these couple. And I said, you know, how many times have you called them? Well, a couple, right? You know, I mean, that's just beautiful that you're able to do that. But in general, we need to be prepared for multiple calls in order to reach people. And that's just a given these days. Even if you're trying to set up referral sources out in the community, you're trying to call that doctor's office or that discharge planner or whoever else, your calls, your attempts to contact them, you know, they have to be up there in the 8 to 10, 12, sometimes even just to get the first contact. And then from there, it's about more contacts, right? This is an interesting statistic, came from the marketing professional, the Society for Marketing Professionals. And so I don't know if it holds for everything, but it's very instructive. These are actual contacts, right? Not calls. It may take you a dozen calls to get your first contact, but then how many times do we actually contact a prospective buyer? Well, 43% of people give up after the first contact. That means that if you're willing to keep calling, keep working with people, 43% of businesses have given up after that first call. 68% of businesses give up after the second contact, 80% give up after the third, right? The low-hanging fruit tends to be harvested at about the fourth contact. Fourth time you're actually engaging with a person is where the sales start to happen, right? And then by the fifth, you're just starting to get to know their needs. Maybe we're in the home for an assessment. By the time you're making 6 or 7 contacts, you're typically the only person left. And that's where the real business happens. So don't give up. Have that call depth more than just a couple calls, right? You can't tell me, gosh, I tried them. How many times did you try them? I tried them once or twice, and then I gave up. Well, then you're in the boat with all the people that gave up after the first couple tries, right? And that wasn't even contacts, that was just calls. All right, last item here is we've got to be able to employ a great nurture campaign beyond that. You know, we had again, a great client. I don't know if you're on the line right now, but sent out Christmas cards around the first of the year, or, you know, end of last year, and got 6 clients out of it from people that had been leads over the previous year that they had pretty much given up on. And yet the Christmas cards alone, in addition to all the nurturing they had been doing, the Christmas cards were just one of them. They had 6 people call in out of the hundreds of leads that they'd received over the previous year, many of whom they thought were kind of dead at that point. 6 people called them and became a client, not just because of the Christmas card, but they're employing a great nurture campaign. You and I both know, everybody on this call, if you've been in this business any length of time, you know a couple things. One is that if people are interested in home care now, the need does not go away. Yes, there's a few who unfortunately, and this is the business we're in and we're sorry for it, unfortunately a few pass away. That's the only time when the need goes away. More often than not, even if somebody chooses to move into an assisted living community, you and I both know that not everybody stays there. Many people leave and go home. They don't like the community. They want to be back at home. And so don't give up, right? Even if somebody hires another agency, you and I both know that not everybody's satisfied with their caregiver or the agency, and they will switch. So don't give up. Employ a great nurture campaign. Keep these people in the loop, and you will find that over time, you are converting 5, 10, 20, 30% of your online leads, which again, if you've only paid 50, 60 bucks at most for an online lead, and you convert 10% of them, that means that your overall client acquisition cost is in that $500, $600 range, much lower than industry averages. So again, I go right back to the very first step. Know your numbers to define success. Even if you only got 1 out of 20, 5%, it's still a much better system of marketing than most others that you can employ. So with that, those are the 10 steps, and each one of these have a training module that goes with it. Again, a lot of details. The one on the scripts, there's actual scripts for you to download and things like that. So we've posted, the first 2 of these are up right now, and I'm about to post the next 3 I have in the can, and And we're going to talk to Denise about getting them up and going. And the next few are already written and recorded. They're just being edited right now. Again, they're very simple. They're 5 to 10 minutes long. There's a couple that stray into the 12-minute mark, but they are phenomenal to have your staff go through, have them go through over and over again. It's one of the benefits of your partnership with Caring.com. Again, these are password protected. That are on our site, partners.caring.com. And if you don't have your password, if you're already a partner, contact your account executive. If you're not a partner of ours and would like to be, again, you can contact us. I'll give you the information in just a moment, and we'd love to partner with you on this. Okay? All right, so with that, here's our key takeaways. Again, just to remember, traditional ways of marketing are still strong. You still need to work on your referral network, but they're in decline, and they may be affected by even more recent events, right? I don't know what our referral markets are going to look like going forward, as those referrals partners are very stressed. Okay. We also, more and more people are searching online before calling. Just know that, regardless of our referral networks. Many will see you elsewhere before they see your website. So build up your reviews, your listings on caring.com, on other sites. And then, you know what? With online leads, help them to shop, communicate through other platforms, nurture them over time, up your call cadence. Again, all these things that are in the course. And then finally, just know that internet leads can be some of the most low-cost, high-volume opportunities that you get. You just have to work them differently. They're different from your referral marketing. With that, Denise, I am done.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter. That was a lot of great information, and we've been getting some questions.
Good.
The first question is our most favorite. Will the slides in the recording be available afterward? Yes, definitely. We are going to be circulating this session so you can share it with others on your team. Another question you got, Peter, was, are the partner training modules that you referenced, are those free?
So they are part of being a partner with us. So when you partner with us, you get 4 things, and 3 of them are ostensibly free, although they're part of the partnership. We don't do them separately. The first thing that you get is your enhanced listing on our directory. Second thing you get is all your online reputation management, your reviews platform. We give you all the tools to be able to not only collect and get reviews posted, but also tools for being able to manage that that reputation. We can go through that more with you when you talk to one of our account executives. And then the training is the 4th part of it. The leads themselves, we charge per lead. And so all of this is bundled together. So in a sense, the training is not free. You need to be enrolled, but it's only as costly as the leads that you get, which then turn into clients. So in a sense, it's free. You're getting paid to do this by getting new clients. But the bottom line is that it's all part of one package.
Okay, great. Thank you. And speaking of leads, you did get a few questions about that.
Sure.
For instance, they're asking questions about, if you can talk a little bit about how many different agencies they're competing with for Caring.com's leads in their area, and how long between Caring speaking to the consumer does that lead arrive to the agency?
Great question. So one of the things that separates us, it was just mentioned, we speak to everybody, and we have qualified everybody based on some very specific qualification elements. But then as soon as we determine this is a qualified lead, we send it out. We recommend and we send it out to no more than 4 agencies in the area. And we found 4 to be kind of the magic number. When we've tried sending it to just 1, and what we find is that people were shopping, they were looking, and when we only have 1, we find that they go back online looking for more. Whereas when we send it to 3 or 4, they're pretty satiated. The great thing about us compared to some other lead providers, and again, it varies per, is that we cap it at 4. It will go out to no more than 4 from us. And then at the time that it goes out, you can receive leads in 3 different ways. One is that you get them through email, you can get them through text message, and they go into an online portal that you have access to, and that happens instantly. So when we talk to them, our family advisor that talks to them takes maybe a minute or 2 to finish her notes on screen. And as soon as she hits send, you get them immediately via email, via text message, and they go into your portal. So there shouldn't be more than a few seconds delay there between it, based on our family advisor typing up the final notes.
Great. And there was another lead question. Sorry, I missed that when I originally shared this. They want to know, what kind of information about the consumer do you share in those leads?
So everything that we are able to collect, and so we, again, we have minimum qualifications that we ask for, but then we seek to, for instance, we seek to establish a budget, and everything that we collect on the budget side comes to you. So we ask them about, their Social Security and their pensions, and we ask them about whether they have long-term care insurance, and we ask them about all the private pay options. Do they have a home? How much equity is in that home? Not every person feels comfortable giving us that, although the majority do, and we send you what we get. Same thing with the ADLs. We ask about all the ADLs that they're looking for. Do they need help cooking, cleaning? Do they need help with personal care? And what elements of that do they need help with? So we ask all those things, and whatever we're able to collect, we send along. In the very few cases where we're not able to collect everything, we ask for thresholds, right? Are you at least able to do this? Are you at least able to do that, right?
And we also, this person was also asking about contact information. So same with that, we include the phone, and if there is an email they provide to us, we share that as well.
And we don't collect the exact address, but we always collect the zip code, and everything is based on zip code preferences. In other words, where will care be rendered? And we find out the exact zip code, and then you only buy leads in the zip codes that matter to you. So if you're franchised and you have zip codes that you have to stay within, or if you're independent, but you have certain areas, a city confines, you don't want to go too rural, you can determine that based on the zip codes. And we obviously qualify based on what zip code the care will actually be rendered in.
Thank you. And then those of you that are asking about your individual accounts, we will have account managers follow up with you afterward. But Peter, there's a question here about how to handle a potential client being unable to afford your services. What should they do with a lead like that?
Being able, a potential client, meaning a consumer of home care, I assume.
That's correct.
Being, okay, so as opposed to a client of ours. So,
that's correct.
Okay, so yeah, so first of all, we screen out, unless we just flat out get lied to, we screen out everybody that's that's not private pay. It's on Medicaid, for instance. We also, our minimum threshold is that they have $500 in disposable income. We're very careful to get clear about, how much is going to the mortgage or rent and how much is going to food and all that kind of stuff. They have to at least have $500 to spend on home care. Now, that's our minimum threshold. Most of the folks we talk to have a lot more than that. And even the occasional people that won't divulge everything, we make sure that they at least have that. And we've seen those turn into, 20, 40, 80, 24/7 hour clients, right? So our minimum threshold is that $500 though. And we look for that, knowing that in most areas, almost every area, covers at least 1 4-hour shift per week. We're also very adamant that care has to be rendered in 4-hour shifts. So we won't send you a lead that's expecting an hour here and an hour there. If you have different minimums, then that's something you'll need to work out. If it's less than that, maybe that's a benefit to the consumer. But the bottom line is that's our threshold that we set up as our minimum lead. Again, most people are looking for a lot more hours and have a lot more money than that.
Thanks, Peter. We have an agency that's asking about when they're responding to a prospect via email, should they discuss pricing right away or save that for later?
So what I've always found to be best practices is to quote a range, but not to quote their final price. And the reason is twofold. Number one is, I want to be careful not to quote a price and then realize that we can't do it for that amount. For instance, we get in the home and it turns out to be a couple, or there's dementia care or things like that going on that might require a different level of caregiver, a different price structure on our part. So that's number one, is I always quote a range, that we offer based on what their needs are. The second reason for that is it gives me that next step to be able to be the ultimate consultant and to be the ultimate little bit of a takeaway, saying that we do it. I'm just going to quote general numbers from, $25 to $30 an hour, depending on what we find in our opening assessment. And what we love to do is come out and do a full-on assessment. Even if you don't hire us, it'll be a great way for you to understand what the needs are. And if we're not the right ones, we'll recommend who. So it positions me as being the ultimate expert that is going to help them regardless of whether they get helped through our agency or not. The truth is, obviously, if I'm in the home doing an assessment, it's a very high close rate, the way that we do our assessments. So for both reasons, I don't specifically quote an hourly rate for a client right over the email or over the phone, but rather a range that then is couched on us being able to do more services such as the assessment in order to determine that.
Thanks, Peter. We also got a question about online reviews, about how to handle it when a negative review comes up.
And you're the expert on that, Denise.
I was just going to say, do you mind if I answer that?
Just so everybody knows, Denise handles, one of the things that she does for us is that she is the queen of our reviews. She has a team of people that manages the reviews. She has an extensive experience with this, and it's just phenomenal. Our clients love her. So Denise.
Thank you. So for agencies that occasionally get an online negative review, it's not the end of the world. Don't panic. And if it's on caring.com, there are actions you can take to get help immediately. So first off, our reviews team is available by phone and email. And you can contact us if there are any fact errors in that review, or if you know for a fact it was posted by a disgruntled employee. You can get in touch with us and we can discuss that further and reevaluate the review against our guidelines. We don't allow employee reviews on our website. If there are no fact errors, it's just a difference of opinion, it just, you weren't able to satisfy that customer, and it's really just their opinion, you have the option of posting a professional response that goes under the review on the listing. And it's not necessarily to start a tit for tat with that reviewer, but instead to show other prospective clients and their family members that you're open to feedback and you respond with grace. So that can be more influential on that prospective client than the actual negative review. And there's been studies on that as well. So we have a whole webinar we do in depth about online reputation management. We have a lot of resources online. So I'm happy to go in depth with anyone that wants to learn more about how to respond to negative reviews and how to get great ones. That's another way to respond to negative reviews. Go to your happy customers and get their reviews. That will push down the negative review, and then the positive ones will be top of mind for those future prospective customers.
Yeah, I'll just reinforce what you said. These days, again, go back to Mary, this quintessential, adult daughter that we're looking for. She actually doesn't, studies have shown that she's actually a little skeptical if all you've got is 5-star reviews. She kind of knows that nobody in this world is perfect. And so when she sees, it's 100% 5-star reviews, she's okay with it, but she almost likes better seeing the occasional negative one with a really professionally and well done response. So to Denise's point, responding to your reviews is often one of the best ways of handling anything, even slightly negative. Somebody gave you a 4 instead of a 5, right? And if you simply put out a really professional thank you and respond to anything that they said was not top notch, it plays really well.
Agreed. And you can even respond to positive reviews on caring.com as well. So we are just about out of time, and anyone that we didn't get to your questions, we will follow up with you after, particularly those of you that asked specific to your account. We will most definitely be following up with you afterward. Really appreciate all the questions we got, the great answers Peter provided. I wanted to make sure we shared the contact information. You can reach our team for the home care partnerships at 855-590-8989. We're also available via email. Peter mentioned a couple times during the session that we have an industry blog and partner blog where we have that training series he mentioned. We have a lot of other resources there. And this webinar will also be archived there. Really want to thank you, Peter, for taking the time. We got some great feedback from participants. They loved the content you shared. I hope people will share more feedback with us about the session. You will be prompted with a survey, and we hope you will let us know what you liked most, what you would suggest for the future. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for spending time with us today, and we hope the rest of your day goes well. Take care.
Thank you very much, everybody.